What's up, Bears fans? We got a bombshell report from Ian Rapoport to discuss. We'll dive into that in just a second, as it does involve the number one pick in the NFL draft. My name is Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button if you want free and daily Chicago Bears news and rumors coverage. We still have a Tyler Scott interview from Media Row in Las Vegas to put out on the channel. Kept getting pushed back because more news is dropping, but that will be coming this weekend. So don't miss out on that or anything else here on the channel. Subscribe, turn on those notifications. Let's get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL draft. All right, Ian Rapoport dropping a bombshell this morning saying that the Bears would need a historic haul of draft picks and overall compensation to move off of the number one pick in the NFL draft. He even said, according to one source, it would have to be crazy in terms of the offer they would get to even consider it. So, look, we're still over 2 months away. This could be a master poker game by Ryan Poles to just try and elevate that price and ultimately flip the pick. Maybe that's what he wants to do. Or maybe he just really likes one of these quarterbacks and he's going to have to receive a trade offer that's never been seen before in the draft to consider moving off of taking said quarterback. Now, a lot of the chatter's been around Caleb Williams. Drake May's in this draft. He's a very high prospect. There's Jaden Daniels. We don't know for sure. I tend to think that he likes Williams the most, but again, he hasn't sat down with these guys yet. The combine isn't here yet, so it's hard to know for sure, and I don't think a decision is ultimately final, but more and more evidence continues to pile up that the Bears are leaning toward taking a quarterback. That's what Rapoport writes in his article here. He says, this indicates the Bears, who received the pick in a mammoth trade last year with Carolina, are more likely than not to make the pick with their new franchise quarterback. He talks about Caleb Williams, how he's number one on most people's boards. He doesn't actually report that that's the quarterback the Bears like, so he did not mention that, but that has been kind of the indication. I don't think that's necessarily final. I highly doubt the Bears' grades and evaluations of these quarterbacks are final, but even if they're not, maybe that means he likes a couple of these guys enough to say, okay, we're drafting a quarterback. So it's very interesting. We're going to break down some different scenarios here on today's show, but I want to hear from you guys. What type of trade offer would it take for you to trade the number one pick in the NFL draft? Now, obviously, it depends on the team, but say Washington's that team, to move down one spot. How much would you need to get to move down one spot? For me to consider it, I got to get two, obviously, the number two pick. I want a second-round pick this year and a first next year. If you put that on the table, I would consider that. And that would be in the historic category, I would say, to move up one spot. But that's what I need to consider moving down. I'm not just taking two in a second. Especially if I really like Caleb Williams or Drake May or whoever. I need a monster offer to consider moving down even just one spot. If I'm moving down outside of the top three, I need your next two firsts. I think this pick is at a major premium this year. So you let me know what you think it would take for you to trade down from the number one overall pick. Now, we can go through the different quarterback scenarios. If they stay at one, I tend to think it will be Caleb Williams. I think he has the highest floor and the highest ceiling in this draft. We've talked about his scouting profile. The biggest questions about him tend to be, two things. One, USC's season got kind of wonky this year. He kind of didn't play at his peak level the second half of the season. He still played good. He put up big numbers, and I think he pressed a lot because USC's defense was so bad, and that made him hunt big plays even more than he normally does, which I like that he does that, but you will have to coach that out of him a little bit. You don't want to coach it out of him too much, but sometimes it's like, hey, just take the 8-yard curl route and let's move to the next play. But number two is I think there are outside perception questions about his mental makeup, right? Some people don't like that he paints his nails. That personally doesn't bother me. Some people don't like that he cried with his parents in the stands after a game. At least he cares, right? Everybody handles winning and losing differently. You don't want a horrible loser. You don't want an awful winner either, but you want a guy that can lead a locker room more than anything else. And there's been no indication from any teammates that I've talked about him, any coaches. Lincoln Riley's made the rounds. Teammates Brendan Rice, Taj Washington, these guys have talked publicly at the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl about him. I haven't seen a single player or coach say, yeah, he's not someone who galvanized the locker room at times. We had to lift him up. Like, there's been none of that. In fact, I think it was Brendan Rice who said that he demands a high standard from his teammates. Because that's his standard for himself. So that's what you want in a franchise quarterback, in my opinion. Now, you've got Drake May, who, from a physical build standpoint, not necessarily arm strength, because I think Caleb and Drake have similar arms, and I would argue Caleb's arm is a little more elastic, and what I mean by that is he can just kind of flick the wrist and just fire the football, where Drake May can do that, but I don't know if it's quite the same level, but May does have a very strong arm. But what I mean with May is he's built in a quarterback factory, in a lab, right? 6'4", 6'5". He's going to come in measured between those two numbers there. He's going to be at least 220 pounds, maybe up to 230, with room to add weight onto that frame. I mean, he could get up to 235, 240, and maybe look like a Josh Allen in a couple of years. I think there's room to add weight there. He's very mobile. He'll run you over. He needs to slide more in the NFL, but if he needs to get a couple dirty extra yards, he can do that. He throws over the middle pretty well. So there's a lot to like there too. I've said this. If the Bears really like Drake May, like if it's close with Caleb or hell, if they like him more, and they get good intel that Washington wants Williams, then yeah, trade down with Washington. But we haven't gotten any indication of that. I don't know if we can sit here and say we've gotten ultimate concrete proof that Caleb is the Bears' top guy, but a lot of reports and indicators would suggest that he is. Now, I think this is a fluid situation. I think you got to take Ryan Poles for his word when he says you got to get to know the person. And I'm sure they've done a lot of background info on these guys, but until they sit one-on-one with these players, Caleb, Drake, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, whoever else, you got to look a man in the eye and ultimately make that decision for yourself. I'm sure the Bears have talked to 50 people around Caleb Williams, 50 people around Drake May, and I'm sure they've gotten a lot of good feedback. But until you look that person in the eye and hear what he has to say and how he carries himself, it's not that stuff doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as meeting the person himself. And that's true in anything in life, right? Like, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, man, you guys should hire this guy as a producer for Bears Now, as a employee at Chat Sports. He's got great work ethic. He does this, he does that," and I sit down and I don't like what I see, that's going to carry more weight than what the person said about him, probably, right? Like, it just does. First impressions are so critical, so that's going to be very, very important. Let me know, do you like Caleb Williams or Drake May more? Take Justin Fields out of it for a second. We're going to talk about him in a sec. Who do you actually like more? Like, and be honest. Who do you think is the better prospect? You think it's Caleb or do you think it's Drake? I think it's Caleb. I do think it's fairly close, but I do think it's Caleb. My biggest thing with Drake is he leaves the pocket at a clean pocket at a much higher percentage than Caleb does. There's data for this. Caleb, I saw the chart the other day. He leaves clean pockets about 3.2% of the time. That's a pretty low number. Drake's up at about 10%. So 1 out of 10 clean pockets, he bails, and it doesn't always lead to a bad result. He'll, flush right or left and make an awesome throw on the run or scramble for a first down. That's fine. I don't think you want to be that high at the NFL level, though. Like, I think 3 to 6% is probably where you want to be in the NFL. There are times to leave a clean pocket because a lane opens up, right? You go take off, get some yards, or you see a guy streaking across the field, you bail right so you can hit him on the run. There are moments where that makes sense, but 3% to 10% is a pretty notable difference to me. And that stat does stand out for me when I evaluate Drake May. Jaden Daniels, similar. He's 10, 11%, which that's not a surprise. He's kind of more of a Justin Fields comp in terms of his running ability. I think Fields is a better prospect. Like, I would much rather have Fields than Jaden Daniels, although I do like Jaden Daniels. But he bails a lot. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about Justin Fields. So with this Ian Rapoport report that it would take a historic offer to move down from number 1, If that's true, if that's led to be accurate, does that mean that the Bears are starting to field calls for Justin Fields? You would think at least possibly, right? Now, I still think it would be an error in judgment to trade Justin Fields before the NFL Combine, right? Like you have got, like you know what you have in Justin Fields, and you feel pretty good about that at least. You need to feel great about one of these draft prospects, and to me, again, that can't happen until you sit down with one of these guys or with all of these guys at the NFL Combine and check that box. So, look. Could there be an exception? If Atlanta offers you the number 8 pick right now for Fields, should you take it? Yeah, probably. Like that would be an exception. But if your offers that you're getting right now are just starting with second round picks, then wait till the combine. Get through the combine. Get through those evaluations. Sit down as a front office staff with Matt Eberflus, with Shane Waldron, and then come to a comprehensive decision, which will ultimately be Ryan Poles. And then, ideally, you do trade Justin if you do move off of him before the NFL Combine or NFL free agency. Excuse me. That would be the timing, I think, if you've made the decision to draft a quarterback. Is into Combine before the start of free agency. You got about a 10-day window. That's when you would trade Justin Fields, ideally, because I think teams would like to know if they're going to get Fields so they can build their roster a little bit around him through free agency, which, quite frankly, the Bears did not do, which is unfortunate and, quite frankly, unfair for Justin Fields. Do you think Justin Fields gets traded? Type T for trade or K for keep? Let me know in the comment section down below. T for trade, K for keep. As more reports come in, it certainly would suggest the Bears are leaning that way. But still a lot of time, still a couple weeks to the Combine. I don't think any of this is set in stone, but I do think this Ian Rapoport report this morning is significant. All right, guys, hit that subscribe button on the way out. We appreciate it. Free videos here on Chicago Bears Now. You can also follow me on social media at HGramNFL on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, Instagram as well. More Bears content over there on a daily basis. Also, some content to come. We have some rumors around Eddie Jackson, Tyler Scott interview that Chat Sports got at Super Bowl Media Row this week. We've got some free agency buzz on some different players. So a lot of videos to come out this weekend. Don't miss out. Also, the Super Bowl should be a lot of fun as well. I'm Harrison Graham. Bear down. We'll talk to you soon.